Welcome to the Mortgage Broker Podcast, where we explore everything related to mortgages and the home buying process. If you're a first-time buyer or a seasoned investor, this podcast is for you. I'm your host, Vanessa, the Mortgage Broker. So, let's get to it. Morning, Brian. Happy to have you here.
Yes, thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. I'm happy that actually you're enjoying our space for the first time on our podcast after coming off of a bit of a hiatus in the summer. So welcome. And you and I have been working together for the better part of 10 years now.
Yes.
Myself as always being the mortgage provider and you being the valuation provider. So I think that there's a lot of misconceptions out there in the market, especially with what's been happening. But if you wouldn't mind, giving us a little bit of background about who you are and how long you've been in the industry.
Yes, my name is Brian Stanshall. I do residential real estate appraisals. I've been approximately 20 years in the business, and I do single family, detached, semi-detached, triplexes, and up to fourplexes. Okay. And then also quite a bit in the building space as well, construction. New building, additions, renovations, some estate planning, family law, matrimonial, and different things like that. Yeah, no, you guys have quite the array of services that you guys do provide, especially when it comes to that side of things. So it was a little bit interesting. I was doing a bit of my homework before we were having this session together, and I reached out to a few of my colleagues saying, I have the opportunity to sit down with an appraiser who's been in the industry for how many years? 20.
20.
Yes,
okay.
My father, Larry, he's been 53.
53 years.
Yeah.
Oh, Larry, what a guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had the opportunity to sit with you and I said, any burning questions that you guys have right now, surrounding appraisals, and I can't even tell you how many questions came in. They came in so fast, but there are a lot of misconceptions out there around appraisals right now, especially because of the market. We've seen, as you know, a lot of rate increases, but we've also seen a lot of volatility on the other side with the values coming down. So I guess the first question would be, what does it take to become an appraiser?
Now you have to have a business degree from university.
Yeah.
And then the Appraisal Institute of Canada has maybe about 12 courses, and they have a timeline to complete those courses.
Okay.
So nowadays it's about 6 years,
okay.
Including your university time.
6 years?
Yes, approximately 6 times, yes.
So you don't just go look at a house, pull an arbitrary number and call it a day?
No, not anymore.
Not anymore.
No, you're climbing around basements, looking in the attics, and but with our current market, it's really difficult because there's a lot of homes now for sale, not a lot of homes selling. So it's hard to determine a proper value for the homeowner and for the bank.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of supply, still some demand, but with rates increasing, it's getting harder and harder to get approved because even though people make good money, it's just not going as far as it used to.
Yeah. And I can agree with that. I know that a lot of clients that I would consider lending clients who would have been approved in the last year or 2 years, I'm finding I'm actually having to move them more into an alternative or a little bit scarier of a space, which is private, right? So these are all factors that come into play, but the biggest reason that I wanted to speak with you about it is one of the biggest questions I think is people are looking, how can I maximize the value on my home if I am in a situation where I need to sell it?
Yes, if you're looking to sell, that's more of a question for a real estate agent.
Yeah.
But neutral colors, sometimes cleanliness, sometimes you make the house look like what it should be and not like your everyday living. Because I have 2 small kids, and sometimes my house is just a mess, right? But a lot of times, just if you're going to sell, a lot of times even bring in new furniture that's not yours and just make it look like a showcase.
Yeah.
So that people think what it could look like, but realistically not what it does look like.
Yeah.
Yes.
And in terms of would you put like more of a weighted value on a newer kitchen, a newer bathroom, a fully finished basement?
The 4 things we mostly look at is the roof, the windows, bathrooms, and kitchens, because they're the 4 most expensive things to do in your house.
Okay.
And then, like I said, a roof, not everybody can do a roof.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to so many homes that people, do-it-yourself people, and you can tell that they've done it because it's not really a good job.
Yeah, I don't know if a roof is something that you really want to do by yourself.
And then the windows, right? Like, but they're the 4 most expensive items in your house to do.
Yeah.
And that's the main things we look at, because anybody can paint. You know, anybody could, put like the click flooring down.
Yeah.
But, putting in windows, putting in a kitchen that's the countertop is level.
Yeah.
Some people just can't do it. They think they can, and I'm one of those people, but I just can't really do it.
Appreciate the honesty.
Yeah, I know my limits.
Well, I guess you would after going into some homes and going, yeah, maybe I shouldn't do that by myself the next time.
I see it, especially the basements, like when they get mudded. Like, if you don't smooth it out perfectly, you can really tell that, the homeowner's done it themselves.
So we were kind of chatting about a few things before we, came onto the episode here. And one of the things was, which types of homes are we seeing maybe more of a decline in terms of housing prices?
We're finding the peak of the market seemed to be about 2021-ish. And then once the rates started going up, then you could see like the value of the properties coming down slightly because affordability.
Mm-hmm.
People can't afford the bigger mortgages now. Some people have bought new homes that are just in the process of closing, and those homes are maybe down $150,000, but they still owe what they bought for it, and now they're just not foreclosing, but just not going ahead with the purchase and losing the deposit.
Well, and I think that that's a big place where I can help. As a mortgage broker, I have, a lot of outreach to different lenders, private investors, where if they get into a situation where they're about to lose the deposit or lose the property, there are ways to still obtain that home ownership, even with the market having fluctuated so much in the last year. It's a challenge. It's not going to be easy, but it is still doable.
Yes, and you feel for some of these people, new immigrants to Canada, or people that are just trying to support the families, and now they're losing, $25,000, $30,000 deposit on these new builds just because of what market has done in the last year and a half.
Yeah, and so that's why I really try and surround myself with like very reputable individuals here in Brantford and community. Working with you for 10 years, I've been working with some lawyers in town for that many years. It is so important to make sure that team that you're working with, not just your real estate agent, but your mortgage broker, because if you're working with a reputable mortgage broker, then you're working with a reputable
real estate agent,
lawyers, appraiser, lawyer,
nothing beats
home inspector,
nothing beats local knowledge.
Right.
We find sometimes some of these out-of-town agents maybe just don't know the areas of Brantford as well. Some areas are more desirable than others.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're overbidding on these houses, and they shouldn't really be doing that.
Well, we try and avoid that.
Yes.
Right? It is quite comforting though to know that on offers that are coming in now, they are conditional on finance, they are conditional on inspection. I think a few people learned their lesson in the last couple of years, which is unfortunate, but now we're trending back to where an appraisal is very necessary to make sure that the market.
I've always been told that you should always have an escape clause, just in case something comes up.
Of course.
You buy a new house and all of a sudden, it's a separation or a job loss. Like you need an escape clause just to get out of it, just in case, because you never know what tomorrow brings.
Right. Well, and it's scary too when it is a bit of a hotter market and you're going in over asking and there is no appraisal or there is no financing condition, and then it comes in lower and now we've got to make up for that space.
Yeah, it was just a bad time to buy for people.
And even though I call you, Brian, and beg you.
Yeah, sometimes it's difficult.
know,
You know.
but there's only so much that you can do, because what would you say is the most important component that you guys look at when you're appraising a home? Besides the home itself.
Yeah, location is a big issue, square footage, and the quality of the interior features, you know.
Yeah.
If you have a house beside the dump or you have a house beside a park, you know, which one would you want to live in, right? Sometimes it's common sense. And sometimes you have a house in Eagle Place and it's 800 square feet and your comparable's 1,000 square feet. That, for those people down there, that 200 square feet is a lot, because it's, you know, maybe a bathroom, another bedroom, you know, just a place to hide from your family. But if you get a house that's, you know, 2,500 square feet to 2,700 square feet, it doesn't really make that much difference. Because
Right.
it could be a pantry, it could be like the closet, you know, the foyer could be just huge, right?
Yeah.
Like for a house like that, you can't really tell the difference between a couple hundred square feet. But you get these smaller 800-900 square foot homes, 200 square feet is a lot.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the square foot does pay, you know, sometimes it's nominal and sometimes it's a lot.
Oh, I know.
You know.
I started my real estate journey with a
Yeah.
850 square foot home. So I do understand how much an extra
Yeah.
100 square feet can make a difference.
Yeah, night and day.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
make it or break it.
And so with Stanshall Associates, you guys only do local,
Yes.
correct?
The city of Brantford, Brant County, Paris, Scotland, Oakland, and then just the north end of Waterford.
Okay.
And that's where my in-laws live and I spend a lot of time, so I do know the market. But outside of that, I don't venture because I just don't know that area,
Right.
you know.
And I've seen in that industry where you've got appraisers coming in from all different cities.
And they don't know like Henderson survey over to Terrace Hill area.
Yeah.
They use sometimes comparables out of Terrace Hill for Henderson. Which is
Oh, you
just-
can't.
You can't, because, you know, Henderson's a premium area.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, they don't know the not as nice areas of town, or they don't know certain things like that are going on in a city, like the flooding areas and things like that. So local knowledge is, you can't beat it.
I know, that's why I use you.
Yeah, that's why I always recommend a local real estate agent, because
Yeah.
you know, you go into different areas. Like I wouldn't go to Mississauga because I don't know, you know, one street from the next. I don't know,
Right.
this is a posh area, this is not that nice of an area. So I just stick to what I know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and you said your dad's been doing it for over 50 years and you've been doing
Yeah.
it for 20, so I think you guys got a pretty good
We know
handle
the
on
area
what's
pretty
going
good.
on.
Yeah, we know all the streets.
You guys could probably deliver a pizza to honestly any property in the town without actually
Yeah.
needing to use
Yeah.
a map.
Yeah, we can tell you every street name in the city right now, it seems.
Yeah.
And sometimes going with my dad, he's like, I've been in that house, I've been in that house, I've been in that house, I've been in that house. And now I do that to my kids and it drives them nuts. You know, so, yeah.
You're just happy to keep passing that down.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So of course I know some of the challenges that I'm facing as a mortgage broker, and I'm sure that you have some questions about that as well, just with what the market's been doing and how that's been affecting borrowers. But I'm sure that there's also challenges in your industry as well.
Oh yes, like especially in this type of market, sometimes you start questioning yourself. And when the market was advancing so quickly, you would put a value on a house and think, God, that's a lot for this house, but then as long as you can support it, improve it, you know, that's the main thing. But now that the market is subsiding a little bit and slowing, the prices are starting to fall a little bit. Now you have the same sometimes self-doubt that you think, God, this is all this house is worth anymore, because 2 years ago you'd be getting a couple $100,000 more.
Right.
And then now, you know, so sometimes you do question yourself sometimes, so that's why you just maybe look at some extra sales.
Yeah.
And instead of just using 3, sometimes you use 4 or 5 or 6 just to prove what you feel that the house is worth. And sometimes a homeowner, mortgage broker might not be happy with your answer, but you know, you have to be able to support your value.
Okay.
So.
And so with your industry and the education to get into the industry, is there ongoing education or something put in place from your regulators that
Yes,
make sure that
with the Appraisal Institute of Canada,
yeah,
I think we have to get 20 hours of courses in every year.
Okay.
And then they sometimes will supply like a day course, which, we get our credits for, but a lot of it is also self-learning.
Yeah.
You just have to do some stuff on your own in your free time.
And have there been any like regulatory changes over the last couple of years that maybe the general public isn't aware of and that's impacted some of the appraisals, or?
Nothing that would impact the value of their appraisals, maybe just how we do it, other things that we have to look for now, including zoning maps now into reports and giving what the permitted uses of that zoning, because some areas like in Eagle Place in Brantford, it's the floodplains, we have to describe why and what and how, and sometimes new builds, you're not allowed to have any basement finish in it. Sometimes they have restricted height of 4 feet and different things like that. So sometimes we have to add more into the report now than what we used to.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed a big difference. Like even 5 years ago, I think the report was like 8 pages long, and now sometimes I get reports that are like 38 pages long.
Yeah, and usually we're at a house 25, 30 minutes. But when we get back to the office, we can be anywhere 3 to 5 hours per report.
Per report.
Yeah, sometimes they're tough. Every once in a while you get a nice easy peasy one, but nowadays all we seem to be getting is a lot tougher ones that,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, can't figure out. And sometimes it leaves us scratching our heads too, right? Because oh my God, what am I going to do about this property?
Right.
Because not every property is pristine.
Right.
Sometimes they have partially completed family rooms that haven't been touched in 10 years, and sometimes we were at this one house and there was a family of raccoons living in the attic.
Oh.
So that's for another podcast. So that's the story in itself. Yeah.
Okay. So it wasn't just one family living in the house, it was
two families.
Two families.
Raccoons. And,
okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess that would impact the appraisal a little bit. Did they call Jared from Wildlife to come and remove them, or?
Somebody, it certainly wasn't me, because I'd be the first guy running. Yeah, so you see all kinds of things, right? And you just try to do your best.
Yeah.
Be polite, be courteous. Always try to say you have a really nice house, even sometimes when it's not. And but you just.
Is that what you say to me?
I'll keep a tight lip on that one. But we see all kinds of things, and you just being in so many houses now, you just learn to, sometimes paint colors are fluorescent orange or blues and pinks, and you learn to look past that stuff.
Right.
Sometimes
because it's more the structure of the house.
Structurally, square footage, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes some of these homes are like going back to my grandma's house, right?
Yeah.
Carpet in the kitchens, cupboards that are from the 60s, but you realize structurally the houses are pretty good, and a little TLC make that house really nice.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and that's where Purchase Plus Improvements comes in too, right?
Yeah.
It's a product that I love doing for new clients, but it doesn't get talked about enough, I don't think. So if you're a new buyer and you're going into these homes with carpet on the kitchen floor and, bright fluorescent orange, as you're saying, if you can look past those things and it is a solid home, right? There is products and programs out there that can help you change those things and still finance them at the same time, so.
Yeah, and then sometimes you also have to know your market area, because you can improve your home, but sometimes you can over-improve it, where you will not recoup the amount of money that you've put into that.
So if I put gold taps in my
gold
kitchen?
taps, or excessive square footage, or even swimming pools, you're up to close to 100,000 for a swimming pool. So I always tell people, if you want to live here for a long period of time, it's value in use, because you got little kids, you can watch them from your back window, they're swimming in the pool,
right?
They're safe. But if you're thinking about selling your house next year or the year after, you're not going to get that value out of the swimming pool. So I would either buy a house that already has a swimming pool, or know somebody that has a swimming pool.
Or know somebody.
Yeah,
That's a good one.
Yeah.
You know what? One of the first homes that I purchased, when I was looking, and I loved the house, and I walked into the backyard and there was a giant swimming pool, and I went, I don't know yet if I can afford the house. I'm not going to be hosting everyone on the weekend as well. So I think over the last couple of years, and it's interesting that you brought that up specifically, because I was kind of wondering myself, like all these people that went out and spent 100, 150, 200,000 between a pool and landscaping because they thought they were going to be stuck in their homes for ever and a day.
Yeah.
And you know how is that going to impact it going forward? Are people still going to be wanting these big landscaped pools in a couple of years when they're able to go out and travel again or go to a friend's pool, right? So.
And then with having little kids, I'd be terrified of having a swimming pool because they could sneak out the back door, just not knowing, and then fall in the pool and think they can swim, but they really can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be just tough.
The overvaluation that you had mentioned, like over improving your property.
Yes.
Basements. How do we feel about those? Like if you're doing a new build, is it worth it right now to do a fully finished basement to get that extra money? Or if you're looking to sell your home, completing a fully finished basement, because it can come at quite a cost.
Oh yes, the square footage to build a basement is like anything anymore. It's just too much money.
Yeah.
Like, so if you're thinking about selling your home, I would just talk to a local real estate agent and maybe just stick with neutral colors, cleanliness, and then tidy up the house. If you have like a 1,200 square foot house and you got 1,500 square feet of stuff inside of it, take that stuff out and just maybe use a storage locker for a little bit until the house sells.
So over the last couple of years, I've noticed with lenders that I work with, as you know, prior, I had only worked with 2 lenders exclusively, but now I've got access to like over 50 lenders. I don't need to use that many, but the access is there. I'm finding that there is more of a strict parameter around the appraisal report, how it's used, who gets to see it, who pays for it, and who is able to obtain a copy.
Yes, like what I've always been told is called third-party liability. Like I come to a house, I'm doing it for the lender because they want to see how much the house is worth, to see if they're able to recoup the money in case of property with power of sale. And sometimes we have discussions with the homeowner asking that I've paid for the appraisal, why can't I have it? And the 2 of the main reasons I believe is the lender doesn't want to become third-party liable for either a matrimonial situation, because 6 months from now there could be a breakup of the relationship, and they don't want to be summoned to court saying, well, you have this appraisal, it was worth this much 6 months ago, or a year ago, or 2 years ago. And then also they just don't want to have an appraisal report out there saying, okay, I will lend you 500,000, but a homeowner needs 600,000. Well, I'm going to go see Vanessa and see if she can get me a private mortgage for another 150,000. Because sometimes that 500,000, the homeowner can be stretched and would not be able to sufficiently support an extra $100,000.
Right.
But then they go to a private lender, and the next thing you know, the house is going under power of sale, and then they have 2 parties that are on title for the mortgage, and then they end up, fighting over it in court.
Yeah. I think the other piece, and I'm just throwing it out there, is fraud, right?
100%,
If you're giving the homeowner the appraisal report, I'm not saying that everyone is dishonest, I'm just saying it is out there. Especially on the mortgage side right now, we have to be really careful of title fraud. So now if we've got appraisals floating around out there that can be, altered or changed to their benefit.
They have all these computer programs now that they can change numbers and letters and all kinds of names on their appraisal reports.
Yeah.
You just have to protect the lenders, the appraisers, and the mortgage brokers.
Which makes sense. I just know before, like if you had sent me the report, I was able to say, okay, here's the report, and send it off to the lender, and now they turn, which again, I think is just them covering themselves, that they want it to come directly from you. So even if I just say, hey Brian, can you forward this to so-and-so who's already attached on the email, they're okay with that because it's coming from you directly.
Yes.
But the only information that I give to clients, I don't give them the report because that's not part of the process, but I can give them, this is what the value came in at as of today, is subject to change. I think that disclaimer should always be in there because as we know, the market is always changing.
Yeah, you never know, like Johnson's Wax could leave Brantford tomorrow and all those people could lose their jobs, and all of a sudden people are like, well, I can't afford my house anymore, I better sell it, and all of a sudden there's a flood of homes on the market.
Yeah.
And which would, decrease the price of homes because there's just too many of them. Or maybe, tomorrow GM could come into Brantford and all of a sudden people are gonna start moving to Brantford because, GM is here now and, that'll increase the value of the homes because there's more buyers than sellers.
Well, I mean, Brantford is one of the best cities to be in right now because of the progression that we're seeing with new builds, employment increasing in this area. Just because I think the pandemic really highlighted it when, people started working from home and it's like, well, why am I paying this much to live in the GTA when I can just drive east or west?
Yeah.
And Brantford just happens to be an hour west of Toronto, so we've seen a lot of growth here.
Yeah,
in the last couple of years.
Really nice city, we've got nice parks, nice bike paths. We're close to Lake Erie, Lake Ontario, get Niagara Falls in an hour. We're pretty nicely located.
Yeah, we're about an hour
from anywhere.
Northeast, south, and west from any major location. So
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty good spot to be in as well.
Yes.
And the home values, I would say, are a little bit more favorable than some of those other areas.
Kitchener, Waterloo.
Kitchener,
Yes.
Waterloo, yep.
Yeah, Burlington, Ancaster, we're still reasonably priced.
Are there any questions that you have for a mortgage broker right now? If I ask this to the general public, they'd be going nuts.
Not really, to be honest.
Yeah.
I understand your job, where you're coming from, and you're trying to do the best for your client.
Yeah.
Where I'm trying to do the best for my client as a lender, but also I'm a neutral third-party person, right? So
Yeah.
sometimes homeowners think their house is worth, X amount of dollars when realistically it is not.
Right.
And so I have to just be honest and forthright with the homeowner, the mortgage broker,
Yep.
and then the lender. That's my job.
Well, there's an emotional attachment for
the person owning the home. Right?
Yeah.
You're just a neutral person coming in and trying to help out everybody involved in the situation.
Yeah.
So it doesn't always work out, but we try to do our best.
What's the average turnaround for an appraisal? I know you said it takes about going to see the home. So if you're there for 25 minutes, it's really taking an hour because you got to get to the location, do the appraisal, and then return back to the office.
We always try to 1 to 2 days.
Okay.
Because, you have to drive to the location, you're at the house, but then you might have another appointment afterwards.
Right.
And then in my case, I drop my kids off at school and I pick them up, then I have to wait till my wife gets home, and then I can do some work. So we usually try to do, 48 hours turnaround time. And every once in a while, you get stuck at a house.
Well, I know you do evening hours because I get the emails at night, and I'm like, oh, good, they're working on it.
Yeah, like once the kids go to bed and you have a free time,
Yeah.
and then you just you work on it when you can.
Mm-hmm.
Because my life's centered around my family, so they're usually what I look after first.
What would you say is the biggest misconception about your industry that you would like people to be more informed about?
There's a lot of education required to do an appraisal, and there's also a lot of liability. It's not like us just walking through a house, snap, take a few photos.
Right.
Here you go. There's a lot of analytical work looking at each and every property because not everything is the same.
Right.
Sometimes you get a few townhouses you can do in a week, and they're sometimes pretty easy, but some of the things you see
Those new constructions that I keep sending over.
But sometimes you go into these homes and all of a sudden you just didn't realize how bad is this house.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you have to call somebody in construction and say, well, this house needs new windows, new kitchen, new bathrooms, new flooring.
Mm-hmm.
Roughly how much would that cost? And then you have to wait for them to call you back.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to call the municipality about a zoning regulation or something. And then, they usually give you 24 hours. So then, that's another day of waiting to hear back properly. Because sometimes some of these homes are now converted duplexes.
Mm-hmm.
And under the zoning, they're only allowed a single family.
Yeah.
Because we had one house in Paris and the garage was converted to a residential unit.
Yeah.
And they were not allowed to do that. So instead of being able to add, for a garage was a residential unit inside, it was just a garage, and everything else was
Okay.
not allowed.
So, and that I think would go back to the over improving, and
Yeah.
it could have it could have added substantial value, but because of the zoning or because it wasn't permitted properly, is that what
Yeah, it wasn't allowed. under the
Oh, it
zoning.
just wasn't
not
allowed. Okay.
Yeah, and then even, we did a fourplex in Paris one time, and the two main floor units were not allowed because it was supposed to be commercial on the main floor, residential on the second,
Got it.
but it was all residential.
Oh,
Yeah, so they said, well, we bought it like this. My agent didn't tell me anything about it. So sometimes when you go in and you start digging a little bit deeper, calling the people at the municipality, and then you find out, you know, I shouldn't be doing this type of property because it's commercially zoned.
commercial.
And it was supposed to have, you know, commercial on the main,
Yeah.
but now it's all residential and it's not allowed.
And is there a maximum home price or home value, sorry, not price, home value that you guys go up to? I know that there's like a liability
We have
insurance
liability
piece
insurance
there.
up to about $2 million.
Okay, okay,
And then some mortgages aren't allowed to, should not exceed $2 million, but
okay.
which is Brantford and Grant County.
Is hard pressed
Very, very
right
close.
now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
realistically, when we come to our house, we're working for the lender.
yeah.
We're their
You're not
eyes.
working for me?
Well, sometimes, right? But like, you know,
You
we're
make
their-
it sound that way.
Yeah, we're their eyes, right? So like
Yeah.
sometimes, you know, you think, oh, this house is beside a gas station. Or like, oh, look at this, is, you know.
Yeah.
We're
Oh, now we're in a
6
whole
feet of water in
different-
the basement,
Yeah,
you know, so, yeah, so we've seen all kinds of things. So yeah, we're their eyes. So they rely on us to,
well, I think the most eye-opening piece to this conversation with you is the amount of education that's actually involved to be an appraiser, which makes sense because there's not a lot of them,
no,
because it does take
a long time to do it.
a lot of extra time and effort
Yeah,
and work.
And sometimes it's difficult raising a small family,
Yeah,
taking these courses and trying to do your work, right?
but it doesn't just stop at the education piece, right? Like, isn't there an understudy process?
Yes, like for new appraisers,
Yeah,
you're supposed to mentor with somebody for, I think it's
2
called
years?
2 years or something like that, yes. And you know, it's a lot of work too.
Yeah.
You're trying to do your own work, raise your own family, and then try to help somebody else out too.
right.
You know, especially when the market's like this and it's up and down.
But there needs to be that extra help because there's, I mean, I don't know a whole lot of people that are going into that industry.
No. Yeah, and then sometimes now they have automated values.
Yeah,
Like, and then sometimes they're good, and then sometimes they're so far to lunch that sometimes we'll get a mortgage broker or the person at the bank calls us and asks us to take another look at it. Because,
yeah,
like we were saying, like sometimes it pays to be the smallest house on the street because with these automated values, you get the benefit of being.
yeah,
And then so sometimes it hurts the lenders too because so sometimes now you have a mortgage on a property that's maybe not even, the house is not even worth that amount, right? But then what do you do because so it's always good to have somebody go out and take a quick look at the house.
Yeah.
You know, might cost you, a little bit of money, but sometimes in the end it's worth it.
yeah. So one thing that I do for every single client that I work with is if they're an existing homeowner, actually I do it for purchases as well, is I'll pull a purview report so I can kind of see where the home is, what the neighborhood is, and what the range of the value is. And if I think that there's special characteristics to that home where the value would be higher because they're not the smallest
Yeah.
home on the street, that's where I make sure that a full appraisal is being done so that we can maximize the value of the home.
Yeah, and then with purview, it doesn't always take the inside conditions.
Oh,
Because sometimes you go in a house and it's beautiful, and then the next house is just god
Right.
awful.
yeah,
And then so sometimes these homes that aren't,
but it's a nice home, right?
yeah, that was a beautiful house. But like, so sometimes, you get some of these homes that need work are overvalued because you don't know what it looks like inside.
Right.
I think they use like a postal code type survey type thing,
Mhm.
and they might have some information on it, but so it hurts the homeowner who has a really nice house that's been kept up,
Yeah,
and then when the homeowner hasn't been able to keep up the home,
yeah.
it
It almost works to their benefit.
Yeah.
So generally the process, if an appraiser is needed by a homeowner or someone looking to purchase a home, you would receive the request either from the lender or from the broker.
Yes,
Right?
that's correct. Yeah, majority of our work is mortgage financing, and we get requests from mortgage brokers, or sometimes from the lender directly.
Yeah.
We also do matrimonial and family law. So a lot of times we get calls or requests from the local lawyers.
Okay.
And then every once in a while, you can call us directly. We have a website, StanshalLassociates.com. My phone number is 519-750-1761.
I know that one.
So you can call me directly. And if we get every once in a while we get a phone call, could you come out and appraise my vehicle? I need this for insurance. And then, so sometimes we get these types of phone calls, and then we direct these people to the
I was gonna say, you've got somebody that you send them to.
Yes,
Yeah.
Eventually we get enough of these phone calls. But yeah, usually, majority of the work is from brokers or lenders. And then our
Do
second.
you guys get a lot of requests from real estate agents, especially with?
Sometimes, depending on the purpose, sometimes they are having a hard time too, coming up with value, so they ask for assistance. And then sometimes we get referrals from, if it's a matrimonial situation, a family law type issue, that they call us to come and take a look at the house because we're accredited appraisers, so ours stick up in court.
Okay.
Sometimes a real estate agent can give you their idea, but it won't stand up in the court of law.
Right.
Yes.
Because of how much education you guys have had to
That
do
is
to
correct.
write those reports.
Yes, that is correct.
Makes sense.
Never ending.
Yeah. And I know, like, right now, working with a lot of real estate agents in this area, I know that the pricing or trying to price the homes correctly right now is a bit of a challenge because we went through a bit of a phase where it was price it low and sell it high, and then it was like price it at what it should actually sell at, and then right now it seems like it's pricing it a little bit higher and expecting it to come in a little bit lower. So it is an ever-changing landscape for sure, but those are kind of the calls that you're getting.
Yes, because sometimes when you go to list the house, sometimes homeowners think the house is worth, X amount of dollars.
Yeah.
And it's not. And then if you list it at a higher amount, the longer the house sits, the less people become interested, because sometimes they think, well, that house is too much, or there has to be something wrong with the house.
Right.
Why hasn't it sold yet? So, listing a house properly is beneficial.
Well, and I could be incorrect, but I mean, I follow the housing prices quite closely because I want to make sure that I'm informing my clients as much as I can from this side of things. But it seems to be, you kind of tell which homes the client is wanting the price at versus
Yes,
what it would actually sell at. So having to reduce the price over and over.
And then sometimes you have some interest at the beginning when the house is listed, but then you'll find another house similar, comparable, and at a different price because they marketed it properly.
Yeah.
And then so these homeowners now are going to other places to buy these homes.
Yeah.
Where your house ends up sitting longer, and then sometimes you end up losing the house you're looking at buying because you can't waive your conditions because you haven't sold your house yet.
Right.
So
I've got a couple of those right now. We're waiting for a sale. Yeah. And it's tough because
in this market it's really tough.
Yeah.
Because people are still looking at what house prices were 2 years ago, thinking, well, my house should get this now. But realistically, you just too late.
Yeah, well, and it's tough too because when people, if they bought the home, let's say in 2015, 2017, 2018 even, right? It's almost like an automatic, it would have gone up in value.
Quite a bit.
Right?
Yes.
And for those of my clients that have bought it in the last 2 years, and if they're having to make any kind of change, whether it's, their family is expanded and now they need to upgrade the home a little bit for more bedrooms, more space, the square footage, like you mentioned, it's becoming more and more difficult because that home that they just purchased is actually less of a value.
Yep. And then sometimes.
And they could have put work into it too.
Yep. And then sometimes people have used secondary financing to help with the down payment. Yeah. And then they were going like, oh, we'll wait for a year or something, then we'll refinance your house and we'll pay off the second mortgage. And now that's backfired because house prices have fallen. You still owe Peter and John the money. And the value of the houses aren't just not there.
So working with a financial advisor up front too
Or
is
if
very
you're a
important, right?
Mortgage broker like Vanessa,
Yeah,
you know,
me.
it's very,
Thank you.
yeah, working with a local person with knowledge
Yeah,
is beneficial,
absolutely.
yes.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Really appreciate it.
If any of you didn't catch it, it's stanshallassociates.com, 519-750-1761. Yes, I've called it many times. But yes, thank you so much.
Perfect, thanks
It's
a lot
great
for
to
having
have
me.
you.
Yep, thanks.